Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our third episode of GTMF Backstage Pass Season 2. Happy New Year. This is your monthly chance to visit with friends, families, and musicians and the GTMF community, a chance to connect with each other and get to know each other. My name is Jerry Ho. I'm the Associate Conductor for the Grand Teton Music Festival, and I'm joined by...
My name is Eva Cappelletti Chao, and I am a violinist with the Grand Teton Music Festival for quite a few decades now, missing it.
And of course, we have our tech guru, our producer, Mike Richards.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here with you guys. Really excited for the show today. Thank you everyone in the chat for joining us, and yeah, let's have some fun.
Thank you, Mike. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all of our friends and our GTMF community. Yeah, we had a wonderful holiday. It was nice just to take some time off from work. Obviously, it was a busy time at the holidays, and we took a trip to Colorado. So we drove 2 days to go to do some family snowboarding trip. So we were actually going to go last March, and basically the week that everything got shut down was when we had planned our trip. So this is something that we were looking forward to, and especially this year as we were getting Remy on a snowboard. So it was his first time. It was great. We took some lessons. And I think, Mike, I think you have a clip of Remy snowboarding. So we were able to get him on a private lesson and get him on a board, and he really loved it. So yeah, it was been, Jenny is a big snowboarder. And so it's been, since Remy was born, it's been on her mind to get him in lessons. And so it was really, really wonderful to see him there, and he had a lot of fun in the snow. So it was a great family trip, even though it was 2 days driving there, 2 days driving back.
Oh yeah, that's a lot with a kid in the car. That's so great though, and that the fact that he's so young and able to get on the board, is that like a normal age, or is he young on a board?
I think he's young on the board. The instructor said, they can start around that age, but sometimes it's just more of a babysitting, so that the parents can go and do their own thing. So,
but he looks like he was in. So
he was really enjoying it, and so we had a good time with him there. So it was a great little family getaway. It was just good to get away from home for a little bit. So, but yeah, it was really nice. And how about you and your family? How was the holidays?
Yeah, we did not get away. So when you're saying it was really good to get away, what happened for me, it's like I felt like I could do this, doing our holidays by ourselves. So, okay, Thanksgiving, the birthdays, everything kind of keeps passing, just us and the Zoom. And Christmas was kind of like, oh man. And then when New Year's was coming up, I was just sick of it. I'm just like, normally New Year's is the time to celebrate the fact that we all got through another year, especially this past year. And so I ended up, about mid-morning of the morning of New Year's Eve, writing to everybody on my block and just saying, hey, I am sick of my four walls. What do you guys think about coming out into the street, socially distanced with our masks, and all just giving each other a toast for getting through 2020. And so it was so good for the soul to see the kids, the dog is running up and down the street, there's cats, everybody was out, and we sang Old Lang Syne, and it was just awesome. And actually, my son took a little video, so it's kind of fun. You'll hear him singing along.
We'll take a cup of kindness yet for Old Lang Syne. Hey! That's a really bad song.
And my neighbor, is the ball dropping? Anyway, it was so good. And yeah, for the first time in a long time, I did not feel so socially distant, so away from everybody that I care about. So it was good.
Well, you were making music with people, just singing with people in a sense, just the sense of, the importance of community and making music together, which is so much about, what GTMF and all of us are here for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, should we, speaking of making
music with people.
and people making music together, we have 4 guests joining us today, all from actually right here where I am in Houston, Texas. And these are 4 members of the Houston Symphony. And we have today with us Scott Houlshouser, Nancy Goodearl, Joan DerHovsepian, and Tom LeGrand.
So I'm so glad to see everybody. Thank you all for coming today. I know you were coming from a rehearsal, so we kind of were cutting it tight, and I really appreciate your willingness to put us in your day. And I was thinking about what we were just talking about, how my son is singing on that video, and I know it's mom heart, but it makes me tear up a little bit to hear that. And so if you're willing, Scott, I'd love to start this conversation with you, because I know that through this pandemic time, you and your son, before as well, but you and your son have been making music together. And so tell me a little bit about that. Tell me, his name is Sean. How old is he? What has he been up to? And what have you guys been doing through this quarantine time?
Well, Sean is 21. He's a vocal performance major at the University of Houston, but he's sung several times with the Houston Symphony as a soloist. And Donald Runnicles actually asked him to do some Copeland songs on a chamber concert at the Grand Teton Festival several years ago. So he, he's had a lot of experience. He's done a lot of theater, about 40 theater shows. And it's perfect because he needs to stay at home right now because of the COVID, and he's one of the few people I can feel comfortable working with, without a mask and all that. Yeah. So most of the teaching, as most of the musicians will know, most of the teaching is done by Skype now. And as we all know, you're kind of held victim to the connection of the other person. As you're teaching piano, if they have a terrible connection and they're too far from their transmitter, the piano can sound like, some strange instrument that's not even a piano. So it's hard to give the counsel the normal teaching methods that you normally use when you have nothing but electronics, So that is difficult. I think we'd all agree with that.
Yeah, I feel like when the pandemic first hit and we were all trying to switch over to doing it virtually, it was definitely a lot of collective conversations between musicians. Okay, did you get a mic? How are you getting your sound to go through? People were like, especially with pianists who were working with vocalists, like they had their phone for listening, but Skype,
right,
and just so many different iterations of attempting to deal with the technology as it stands.
Exactly. I think if we all had fantastic equipment, including our students, and they all had the different Wi-Fi extenders and the proper cameras, it's a pretty decent medium. You might be able to do 80 or 85% of what you normally could do in a live session. But I think if there's a bad connection, it's like 50%.
Yeah.
And so what I do when I teach them, I'll say, okay, just take this movement with this hard section. Let's set the metronome on half tempo. Let's play it. Because sometimes all I can hear is, are they going too fast or slow, or hear what notes they're hitting. So I want to make some progress and help them play better. So I'll just kind of babysit their practice, which is not ideal. But if you can't hear that well, that's about all you can do. So. And a lot of kids don't want to play half tempo and stuff like that. At least if once a week I can get them to go one hand at a time and really set the metronome and play more slowly, maybe that helps. It's not perfect, but that's the best we can do with some of them.
That's fantastic. I was just thinking, I remember hearing from you, I think, that you have one student that really has done exceptionally well.
Yeah, there was one that won the I'm a Hog competition in Houston, which is $25,000. In fact, she won $40,000 her last year of high school. And her name was Esther Leal. She was on From the Top and all these things. She decided she was just getting really too nervous, which is crazy because she played fantastic. But she's a software designer for Amazon now. So that's kind of interesting. But at least she can work from home. They're letting her do distance, so
So
her job is at least intact. Yeah, that's okay.
Fantastic. So let's go back to you and your son and what you guys have been up to.
Yeah, we've done a lot of YouTube videos over the years, probably about 40 of them. It's just to help him continue with his music, and we enjoy recording together. So we did one this Christmas for the symphony. It was You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, which I think kind of is an allegory for what COVID has done for all of us. So if you have that video, you can, because there's some piano on it too.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus and as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel. Just face the music, you're a monster, Mr. Grinch. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders, you've got garlic in your soul, Mr. Grinch. I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole. No one's denying you're a vile one, Mr. Grinch. You got termites in your smile. You have all the tender sweetness of a seasick crocodile, Mr. Grinch. Given the choice between the two of you, I'd take the seasick crocodile.
There's that one.
That is so fun.
Oh, thank you. And it's short. We didn't want to play one that was too long, so that's a quick one.
It's a good one, too. That's a great idea, thinking of it as COVID as well.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
God, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I got in touch with all of you, as you know, and so I'm saying this to our listeners, which is I said, anything that you're up to that you'd like to talk about, please bring that forward. And I was so surprised at what Nancy brought forward. So Nancy, let's just give you the floor. I was so impressed that you are not just an artist in the musical field, but a artist in pottery, in working with pottery.
Well, anybody that knows me well knows that I've been doing this for years, and people at the Tetons may not know this, but I probably started 25 years ago on a leisure learning class when we used to have those in Houston, and I actually with a colleague at the time, and I discovered that I just love it. It's so fun playing with mud and making something beautiful out of it, and it's a really nice complement to music, because music, is my life, of course, but you play something, you've worked really hard for it, you play it once or hopefully more times, and then it's gone. You've got recordings, but you play and it's gone. But once you make a piece of pottery, you can get it back out and look at it and touch it and feel it and appreciate it. And then you can look back at something you made years ago and think, oh yeah, I've improved. And so I've always had this fantasy of having a pottery business, but never seemed to have the time or the impetus to get that going. So of course, here we've had all this time on our hands, although as probably other people will say, we've been working actually all this time since July. We've been playing, which is, I'm very grateful for, and it's another whole thing, but our schedule is much lighter than usual. So I've had the time to make a body of work and collect it and you know, it's sort of a tedious process to get this going, but now I have an Etsy shop with some of my work there, and it's, you know, it's not anything I expect to make a lot of money doing, but it's something I love, and it's something that I'm actually very proud that I've gotten this far.
Yeah, yeah, I'm seeing Mike. Thank you very much for sharing this, showing some of your pieces.
All right. Wow.
So generally, my favorite thing is I throw on the wheel. As you can see, I make bowls. I'm sort of the bowl queen, which is some of my favorite things to make. But I've also branched out into some hand building and some of these slab works, and I don't know, it's just that the possibilities are endless.
Did your throwing of your pottery changed at all during this pandemic, just simply because so many things changed for us, you know?
I don't know, I guess I've done more of what I've been able to do it more at home. I don't think it's changed a whole lot. Yeah. But because I have the wheel in the garage.
Let me bring into this conversation Tom and Joan. Tell me a little bit about, I'm watching it from DC, like it sounds like a success story in hard times. Even when we had you on the show last time, Joan, and you were talking about doing that home concert, and all of a sudden it was just so much engagement, and a time when many of us were just feeling like, whoa, I don't know what's happening. So tell me a little bit about, maybe we start, whomever wants to go first, actually. Just give me the sort of the sense of what was happening all the way through and your experiences as an organization through this pandemic time.
Yes, as Nancy said, we've been playing over 2 weeks since July, and just so grateful for the music during this time. It's really a testament to the whole organization working together. The management has been so tirelessly working and dedicated to making this happen. And from the very first week that we were shut down, the musicians and management were meeting on a weekly basis just to try to discuss what we could do and how we could do it. So it was this huge process of baby steps, from our home online concerts to what we're at now, which is a regular 3-concert weekend, just like our normal subscription weeks that we have in regular times, with an added Saturday night live stream, which we never did before. So that's a new skill we've thrown into the mix. We're able to have smaller audiences now. I think we're up to, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, something like we can have about 400 people per concert in the audience. And it's the first time I think we're actually grateful that our hall is so big. We've never enjoyed that fact, but now, because it is so large, the audiences can be distanced, and we can get people in. It's not, you know, as many as we'd all like, but just hearing and feeling in the hall, it's such a reward. It feels so great now. And everyone is incredibly appreciative of this whole process. And I feel like as an orchestra, it's been years really of these improved discussions throughout the organization and strengthening to get us to where we are now, where we could work together in this way and kind of take the tough road, actually, but make it happen. Weeks ago with the folks in New York, and we're hearing from other orchestras, you know, Fort Wayne is another one, and Nashville, and groups that aren't playing as much as we would all like, and of course freelancers, and it's just so tough. I think we're all just incredibly grateful to be playing.
You know, everything you said just rings so true, but I think for people who may watch this that aren't performing musicians, they know that we went a while where we didn't work, just like everyone was locked down. But the the engine of an orchestra really powers us to be players. I mean, beyond all the practice we do at home. And to have lost that for a while was really very difficult. So we were so fortunate to come back and have been playing. And, you know, even now our schedule is a little more sparse, but it's hard when we have weeks where we don't do as much. But our management has been great. Vicky Dominguez has just made so many great things happen, and I'm just excited to be playing in an orchestra. Somebody said to me recently, as a joke, but it wasn't so much of a joke. It just like, wow, you're in a top 5 orchestra now, because there are only a few people that are playing, a few orchestras that are playing. Anyway, it's wonderful to be able to do this.
I wanted to ask you, Tom, I'm thinking of you
Yeah.
because Woodwind, are they full orchestras, or are you at limited capacity? Are you doing chamber versions of things, or what does it look like?
Over the summer, we did basically large chamber music groups like Mozart octet wind serenades and string ensemble pieces, some modern things as well, and early classical or romantic pieces. But for the winds, a lot of the things that we're playing now are reduced orchestration arrangements, like in pops and things like that. There are a lot of people writing that kind of arrangements now so that we can play without having too much density on stage.
Yeah, that makes sense. Joan, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, we did Schubert's Second Symphony, we've done Mozart Symphony, we did Beethoven Violin Concerto with Midori last week. Hilary Hahn came, James Ennis. We've had some soloists come. We've done, maybe 40 some on stage at once, and it depends, of course, on the complement. If they're percussion, if they're brass, there'll be fewer strings. But I think, we've probably always had under 50 on the stage.
And is it the strings are all sitting at their own stands, and the winds, do you have your partitions of, in terms of the same?
We don't actually have partitions. I don't know what the conversation has been about that.
We have individual stands as always before, but we're not distanced with plexiglass shields or something, but we are distanced by at least 6 feet. And
the stage hands get out there with tape measures to make sure that that's the 6 feet.
Yeah, and I teach at Rice too, and the ensemble I conduct there, they're at 10-foot centers. So I mean, people are being very careful. And I guess that was the other thing I wanted to say, actually, is that while I was initially quite concerned about going back and playing with musicians, particularly as a wind player, having to be unmasked, our orchestra has developed a really fine protocol for keeping us protected.
Mm.
And we
COVID test once a week. COVID test once a week, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
Well, then they also designate exactly where we're supposed to be unpacking our instruments and what entrance we're coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely plans.
It sounds like you all feel like you're being well taken care of, safety-wise.
I feel like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's about as good as it could be.
So everyone, I think, is willing to give that extra, come to the hall early, come during your designated arrival time and door, and unpack exactly where they tell you. And it's the little things, I think, that add up to make it a good situation. So same thing as Tom, I was wary when we first came back. I didn't know if I would feel comfortable, and I couldn't have felt better, you know, just happier to be there. I was just so pleased that it felt that way.
Let's watch the video that sort of explains all of this on the largest level. Mike, if you can bring that forward.
It's pretty amazing to see. I mean, you know, with each month changing so quickly, just when you can see it all sort of in such a condensed way. And I still remember watching the broadcasts of the concerts from Houston Symphony this last summer. And when you guys were the only show going on, and I just remembered, you know, everybody was there on the YouTube, and we were sitting there chatting with each other, talking about how great it was to see everybody. And of course, it was always friends. We were cheering all of you on and talking about how wonderful you sounded. And so it was also just for, I'm sure for all of you, a great experience to play together, but also for the audience, just a great chance to see and hear people play music. Is there anything you want to say about the sort of the adaptation as you sort of went through the summer? You being able to play a lot of concerts, play together?
Yeah, it really is different. I mean, when at least one plays in a wind section, we hear each other breathe, and it's part of the ensemble. And now we're so far apart, we have to be more physically aware, and it's a great challenge. But it's interesting that even though initially it was very difficult, it's become more normal, more comfortable, and maybe we grow from that as well.
Our stage has always been difficult for hearing one another. It's something that even in the best of times we've struggled with, setups and risers and how to do the shell and all kinds of things. And so I was pretty wary when we had to be this distanced and not have a stand partner in the string section and all that. But I honestly think that our ensemble might be better now than it ever has been, because there's such an intensity there. There's such a commitment from everyone. And especially with the Saturday live stream, it kind of ups our game because we just have one chance that night and there it is. And so I feel like this is actually strengthening us as an ensemble from within. And I'm very excited to go back to, our normal setup because I hope that it will be, much improved from what we had felt before, just because this bit of adversity has taught us how to handle it, how to roll with it, and hopefully, just gave us a little boost.
I feel like people are every day, everyone shows up like it's their most special concert ever, even at a rehearsal.
Because there aren't as many.
Yeah.
We don't play as many weeks. For me, I'm the third horn. So all the music that has been reworked is now for two horns. So it's rare that I actually play my own part or my usual part on anything. So I have a whole different role, which is good for me and pushes me and it makes me appreciate different aspects of it. It's hard. The distance makes it hard. It really does. But I do feel more comfortable with that, having done it for months now. But I miss, the Brahms symphonies and the Tchaikovsky symphonies and being really in the middle of all that sound. I mean, we're in the middle of it, but kind of at a distance. And for me, the conductor's really far, way up there somewhere. So, but then I sit there and think, wow, I'm playing in an orchestra. So many people can't say that. And even if it's a whole different experience, it's awesome. And it really feeds something.
We've gotten to play a lot of pieces that just have 4 or 5 people or 6 people at different times over the last few months. And that's kind of good too, because I told somebody we're playing less, but half the time you're playing a piece and you look up and you realize you're playing by yourself. There's a lot of more solo work and a lot of smaller groups, and that's kind of good for you too, to be more on the spot that way than being a part of 100 people or something.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's, with sort of the new configuration, all of you are playing a lot more chamber music, and that sort of also makes me think about GTMF On Location. The fact that all of you are able to bring to our listeners this wonderful program of Mozart and Reich and Farkas and Brahms. Just talking to the musicians from New York and Chicago, for them it was like the first time they had been able to play with other people, but this is something that you've been used to. So tell us about, was it just, but it was sort of in a different sense because you were part of the GTMF family. So being able to, in that different way of playing chamber music. Anything you want to say about that?
It was wonderful. I think to have the opportunity to do a well-produced recording at a very high level with colleagues here, and even though it wasn't a standard group for us, I mean, 3 of us had played together. Nancy and Judy and I had played together for a long time, but to put together a group and play great chamber music and put it together in a short time and stretch ourselves to play at the highest level that we could possibly do was just, it was a real joy.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in. We were so happy to be asked to do it. Mm-hmm. And we often don't get the chance to play chamber music in these groups when it's regular symphony time. So we were looking forward to it, and we had rehearsals scheduled in advance, but then we ended up getting together earlier and sooner because I think we just really wanted to play together.
Yeah, listening to the pieces that the string musicians did and Judy did with the strings, and the ones I played with myself, it just like expresses the great joy of getting to play music. And I think this whole series, and not just from Houston, but the other ones, are really special because people just are so excited about getting the opportunity to do that.
the people that filmed it did a beautiful job, I think. You'd have every little 2-bar solo or interjection picked up by the cameraman, and the editing was very seamless, and it was a very impressive filming job, I think, on our chamber concerts.
No, you all sounded fantastic. It was so wonderful just to hear all of you play, and just with each one, we're always looking forward to the next concert. As you've moved from the summer to your main season, as you were mentioning, now that you have audiences in the hall, sort of what that means for all of us as musicians, the importance of playing for an audience, and how you have your 3 times a week you're playing for an audience, and not only are you doing your regular classical concerts, I know that you're doing pops concerts, and all of you just got some of you just came from an education concert rehearsal, so I mean you are doing everything, so it almost feels like a regular season. So this is really remarkable, and I know that a lot of orchestras around the country, they are playing but they're not able to have audiences. So sort of, and you could speak just to what it feels like to play for people.
You know, we were so grateful to come back to work in July. It was so nice to see everybody, to have a purpose, to play together. But it was the weirdest sensation to play these concerts, to be, you know, using all our skills and focus and everything to play, and then you're finished and it's like, there's no audience. It's the weirdest sensation. And, you know, I've come to realize that how much I took that for granted. And I'm trying not to, but I get in, like, you know, we play a concert and there's applause, and I have to remind myself that that's very special, to share that with the audience and have a reaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to be in that collective moment of sharing those sounds together at that time that they happen. It just feels really, really great. And there must be something as well about just the sound waves, you know, being in a room with that in the air. It's I think palpable. And yeah, as far as the applause goes, now that we have audiences but they're sparse, the orchestra is pounding their feet and applauding so beautifully for one another, and for the soloist and for the conductor, and there's just a general feeling of appreciation, which is nice.
Well, I know that one thing that we're all looking forward to when we return to Jackson is, of course, playing for the community and audiences at the festival, and playing at Walk Festival Hall, where the community and audience play such a critical role, especially when they're so close to us and you can really feel their presence there. And I know that's something that we're all looking forward to and excited for. But
Jerry, has there been any preview talk about the size of the orchestra, or just kind of playing it by ear to see how the case numbers are as we enter the summer and all this kind of thing?
I think we're all just waiting to see how things are going to go as
Sure.
the summer approaches. Right now, of course, the cases are bad, and
Of course,
so,
yeah.
So, but I think there are people on this chat right now that can tell us a little bit more about it, and we
Sure.
probably talk more about it afterwards.
At the spur.
At the spur, with a
Yeah.
drink in hand.
Those in the audience that know about this, bring it to the spur, because that's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, we have so much chamber music, and I assume that would be safe to continue because, you know, of the room, the distancing that can be done and so forth.
But speaking of the audience, I thought this might be a great segue to involve our wonderful attendees today, to give a shout out and also to get them going. Eva, do you want to take over?
Absolutely. So we're moving on to the games part segment here. So the game that we're playing is 2 lies and a truth. 1 truth, 2 lies. And Tom, you and I and Jerry and Mike are going to be guessing which one of these 3 sentences that have been given to me is the truthful one.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to invite all of you that are in our participants that are out there on the other side, open up your chat boxes, because I'm going to say for each person these 3 possible scenarios, and you have to guess either whether you think it's the first one that is the truth, the second sentence that is the truth, or the third sentence that is the truth. And we're going to see whether or not we guess correctly about our colleagues. So for those of you that are usually in our audiences, that feel that you know these people that are up on this screen, I had a very good time getting these pieces of information, and I don't know what's the truth or not too. So we're in this together, Tom. So let's start off with Nancy. She was my first person to respond back. So Nancy has given me, again, 2 lies and 1 truth. So what we're looking to answer in the chat box and for ourselves is which one of these, 1, 2, or 3, that we think is the truth about Nancy. Okay, so is the truth that we have 8 animals in our household, 3 dogs, 2 guinea pigs, 2 chickens, and a parrot? Or is it true that she is certified in scuba diving? Or, number 3, that Nancy has been to all but 12 of our national parks in the United States. 1, they have 8 animals. 2, certification as scuba diver. 3, been to all but 12 of the national parks. What do you guys think is the truthful one about Nancy? Dave Williamson says 3. See that in our chat. And Sarah thinks 3. There's a lot of 3s going on. Okay. Jerry and Mike think number 1 was it. Stephanie Mortimer, 3. Okay, a lot of guessing on the 3. So Tom LeGrand.
I'm going with 1.
You think it's 1? All right, Nancy, which one was it?
Number 2.
Oh my gosh, nobody got it right.
Wow.
Oh no, wait.
No, we have one. Jeff
Gifford Weaver. All right. I don't know what you win.
He's a friend of ours. He cheated. Yeah, so we have 6 animals. We don't have chickens.
Okay, good to know.
And I wish I had been to more national parks, but I looked up and it's probably only about 20.
Awesome. I love it. Nancy, you caught us. All but 1 person. Very nicely done.
Well done.
All right, the next person is Scott. I have 3 pieces of information from Scott. We have to decide. There are 2 lies and 1 truth. Which one is the truth? 1, I climbed to the top of the Grand in the Teton Mountain Range. Or, I accompanied both the 1st and 2nd place winners in the latest Van Cliburn International Piano Competition at various times. Or, I played a couple of studio recordings with the Houston-based rock band ZZ Top. Which one is it? Which one is true for Scott, our pianist on our panel? Pianist of the Houston Symphony. Climbing to the top of the Grand, accompanying the latest Van Cliburn International Piano Competition people, or playing with ZZ Top? Which one do we think it is? Amy thinks it's 2.
I'm going to go with 2.
David, okay. Tom LeGrand thinks that it is accompanying the people in the Van Cliburn competition.
Looks like 3 is starting to inch ahead.
It could all be true.
We've got a lot of 3s going on.
There's a lot of 3s.
All right. Oh,
A couple of 1s, a couple of 2s, and a lot of 3s. So you must have the inside scoop for ZZ Top. We think that you're a ZZ Top fan.
What is the truth for you, Scott?
Well, I have done recordings with rock bands before, but not ZZ Top. It's the Van Cliburn. The Van Cliburn is the correct one.
Woo!
Yeah. The first place winner was in the I'm a Hog competition, and the second place winner spent 4 years in Houston, so I got to accompany him.
Okay.
And I thought it was so unusual because there's thousands of pianists in the world, in Russia and China, everywhere, and I've never played for any of the top 10 people, and to play for the top 2 was very unusual, just trivia-wise.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Nice job, Scott.
Wow,
we've got really
seems too obvious.
Yeah, tricky. Okay, Joan. We are now on Joan. Joan has 2 lies and 1 truth. Which one do you think is the truth? Number 1, I once jumped out of a huge viola cake for my husband's birthday. Or 2, on a particularly bumpy international flight, I performed solo viola works to calm nervous passengers. Or I dressed as Poop for a Halloween party with Emmanuel Axe and Peter Oundjian in attendance. Which one is true? Look at Joan. Look at her deeply. Look at those eyes. Which one is it? A cake? Playing viola to calm the passengers, or dressed as Poop in front of notable luminaries in our field? Which one is it going to be? Who do we have in the chat here? Mike Richards is sure it's the cake.
I wish it was the cake, but I'm going to go with number 2.
On a bumpy flight. We've got a lot of 2s.
The
beautiful Joan playing on the flight. Huge viola cake, number 1. Bumpy international flight, number 2. Dressed as Poop, number 3. Dave Williamson says 1. We've got a lot of 2s.
So we have a tie between number 1 and number 2 right now.
I'm going to go with 3 because she probably wouldn't have just made that up.
Oh, wow. So we have a 3-way tie.
Mortimer says the same. Yeah. So, Joan, which one is it? Which one is the truth?
The truth is number 3.
I
wish it were number 2. It would have been more noble. You all had noble. Mine were so silly compared to the rest. So let me explain this. Fellow GTMF violist Rita Porphyris had a Halloween party that was a Las Vegas theme party. So Eric Granfor, also GTMF, convinced me that it would be a good idea to go as a play on words, to go as Craps for the Las Vegas. So here we were dressed up like that. And then these wonderful luminary musicians come, and that was a moment. So I'm not going to be taking my husband's Halloween costumes.
That's awesome. That is really great. And so when we see you next time, you're going to have to bring a picture along of you dressed as, nice.
I'll see if I can find one. Otherwise, I'm sure Rita could scrounge one up.
Good. All right. And Tom, I'm sorry, which one did
you actually?
Did you use number 2? We all think you're nicer than you are, Joan. All right, a round of applause for our participants. Nice job. That's really wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And I see Stephanie Mortimer in here going, woo! Because she knew you were the...
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody in the audience for joining us today for GTMF Backstage Pass. It's always great to have you here talking and listening and chatting with us. And of course, I want to thank our wonderful guests here from Houston, Tom, Joan, Scott, Nancy, and sharing your sharing your experiences from this past almost a year with us as musicians from the Houston Symphony Orchestra, and sort of inspiring all of us to what is really possible right now, and giving us a beacon of hope for this. Please tune in for our next episode of GTMF Backstage Pass, which will be on February 12th with musicians from Salt Lake City, as well as our next episode of GTMF On Location, where you will hear the Salt Lake City musicians perform on February 25th. Thank you so much.